Ambassador Mr. Park Yang-sik, distinguished panelists, dear friends, I bid you all a very good morning on this delightful winter day in Dhaka to the first Ambassador Lecture Series event of Cosmos Foundation for the year 2024. Wishing you all a very happy new year. It gives me great pleasure to welcome as our keynote speaker today, Ambassador Park Yang-sik of the Republic of Korea, and all our other distinguished speakers who are honoring us with their participation today. Another reason for my added happiness is the fact that this occasion is focused on Bangladesh's bilateral relations with the Republic of Korea, a country that has emerged as a strong partner of ours on the Asian matrix, which is also a country with which we share many common experiences. Our diplomatic relations began just over 5 decades ago in 1973. It expanded rapidly to encompass varied yet enormously significant areas of collaboration. These included development cooperation, trade and commerce, investment, education, human resources development, ICT, defense and cultural exchanges. Common values often meant common postures and positions on global issues, like, for instance, climate change, on which we have signed a US $90 million loan agreement, or on Rohingyas, for which Korea has a structured support system. Any assessment of our bilateral relations would remain incomplete without an analysis of the cultural interchange. In Bangladesh, Joseph Kim's Korea Bhai YouTube program has been hugely popular, as are many TV dramas. Also, Korean cuisine is reflected by the scores of Korean restaurants dotting our cities. Bibimbap is almost as popular as bhava pita. Korea has also been hosting a significant number of Bangladeshi migrant workers. The numbers, I understand, are around 20,000 and rising. So this has also resulted in considerable inflow of remittances. There is also a large student body of Bangladeshis in Korea availing themselves of the first-rate education services that was a hallmark of the Korean miracle. This intellectual collaboration is significant in deepening understanding and has also resulted in cultural interactions. Many may be aware of the Korean production of Bandobi, which is written, produced, and directed in Korean with Bangladeshi lead players. This is more than what we have achieved in terms of people-to-people collaboration with many of our partners and friends. I have every confidence that this friendship between our two nations will continue to strengthen over time. Our event is a contribution that the Cosmos Foundation makes to that end.
I should be remiss if I didn't say a word or two about the relationship we have with Korea at a broader global levels as well. We have always championed, by the way, many people tend to forget that, South Korea's membership of the United Nations in the 70s and 80s. And this is something that Ban Ki-moon had always mentioned whenever Secretary General, whenever he had come to Dhaka. Now, on many global subjects also, we have spoken with a common voice, and I know we will continue to do so. We should work together to sort of create norms and conditions on the basis of values which are increasingly becoming what we call Asian values. We've all formed, this is going to be a very important year in global politics. We've all, I'm sure, listened into the judgment of the ICJ, etc. The world is focused on certain very critical issues for which we'll all have to work together and create norms. Particularly Bangladesh will be graduating, as you know, from the list of LDCs. We will need to work out a format or a regime for this with the WTO, for which we will need support for all developed countries and including Korea, and I'm sure that will be forthcoming.
Because Foundation, this is provide very good, useful occasion for me to introduce the bilateral relations as well as other things. Korea name is Republic Korea. North Korea is Republic People's of Republic Korea. That is the name of North Korea. Capital city Seoul since 1934. Size, whole total size, this size. It means that and then South Korea only is 40%, 100,000 square meters. So, and then population, South Korea only 51.55 millions. North Korea is roughly 25 million. So South Korea is twice bigger than North Korea. So this is but I'm skipping. And then Joseon Dynasty, all the ruled one country. So this is one country called the Korean Peninsula. However, 1910 Korea became the victim of the Japanese colonization. So we underwent 35 of the Japanese the colonial rule. And then after the World War II is over, the Korean Peninsula divided two lines according to 38 federal. So this is occupied by Soviet Union, and then here occupied by United States. So this is 38 federal. So this is Korean War. It's an inter-Korean war. It's a breakout 1950 and then finished 1953. Can you imagine so many victims? And then Chinese also enter the army. Also United States and allied the armies to fought each other. So this is a very international war. And then the peace treaty was not made. It means that only truce agreements was made on July 27, 1953. So roughly 3 years, the civil war, some kind of civil war. So after war, this is new paradigm. Previously, this is the 38 federal. Now is this after fighting results. This is a new line. It's called in Korea DMZ, demilitarized zone. This is roughly our history. And then I'm trying to overcoming how to income trade. So in Korea, 1987, 1980, very, very important for Korea. Why? Korea is, at that time, Korea hosted the 88 Summer Olympic Games. However, 1987, there are big turbulence was happened in Korea. Also, our economy is maybe in the data, Korea for capital income over $3,000, just over. So this is a very, very new challenge. What kind of challenge? Democratization. Also, can you imagine Korean, the labor union, very, very violent. And then sharply increase the cost of wage. So from this year, Korean companies started to overseas investment due to why? Sharply increasing cost of wage. And then also prevalent corruption was very wide. So this situation, so there's also 1987, 1988, I was, at the time I was a university, this third year student, like 88, first grade student, and then I joined the foreign ministry next year, 1989, April 1989, I joined the foreign ministry. So I underwent this situation, so I'm trying to explain how to respond to Korean government's this challenge is 4 terms. So I explain by and by. So firstly, I'm going to Korea democracy movement of Korea. His name is Lee Seung-man. He's our founding father. He's the first president. However, he was a dictator, 1948 to 1960s. So can you imagine this picture? This is the student movement. So he retired due to the student democracy movement, April 1960. So he retired. So very, very the sad story. And then 1 year, the 1 year chaos. After that, Park Chung-hee General Park is made coup and then became president. Very long period, 18 years period. Also, he killed his intelligence man, his dead, 1979 October 26. However, 18 years rule, he made Korea as the economic development. It's so-called miracle of Han River. Han River is a very big river in Seoul. He's very, very, also he used very merciless power. He's very dictator. But it's most importantly, he was not personally corrupted. That's why he's get good. Sometimes he's very good reputation due to not being corrupt. And then, problem is that still General Park was died. Still 8 more years. 8 more years authoritarian regime has been continued. And then he two leaders, he's a Kim Dae-jung, he's a Kim Yong-sam, both a student, the student leader of the democracy movement. And then later, first he became president, first and second. And then they finally, 1987, this is our new constitution. Finally, democratization was achieved in 1987, and then new constitution was introduced. This is the how to Korea achieve democracy. This is our the summary, and then what kind of learn democracy in Korea? Firstly, Korea's democracy was expressed in direct election of president because 1972, 1987, more than 15 years, our leaders was not elected by the people indirectly. So all the first demanding for democracy is that direct election of the president. This is the first the motto. Secondly, absolute power leaded to absolute corruption. So that's why our new constitution, single 5-year terms of presidents. So maximum 5 years, also one single term was introduced in our constitution. Also, punishment for corruption was strengthened. Now, until four former presidents went to the jail. And then suddenly, so previous governments, they are emphasizing their own democracy, Korean way of democracy, something like that. But we found that there is only one concept in democracy. Anyone, our version, our own Korean way, all are just, it's not democracy in true sense, but it's camouflage, the dictatorship. So, concept of the democracy only one. That is our discovery for the democracy. So, I'm concluding the explanation of Korea's democratization. And then, secondly, I change the economic policy. After Korean War, imagine Korea is the ruined world of Korean nation. No hope for export to be source of foreign exchange. Korea's export remained minimal until 1960s. A substantial portion of import was appropriated by foreign aid. This is situation 1950 and early 60s. So Korea is a start economic. So at the early stage, capital shortage with technology base on the previous private sector. This is situation. However, abundant high level of literacy. In Korea now, there is no one illiteracy. Korea is 100 literacy. And then strong economic growth. So in this situation, light industry is started, 1960s. Two factors very important in economic development. First one, labor force, another is capital. The land reform is in Korea is very, very important. Why? Land reform, there are two purposes. One is that individual has a limitation to hold the land. Secondly, basically the holding land only allowed by the person who has intended to be engaged in agriculture. This is our land reform result. And then why this is during the Joseon dynasty, landowner and the tenant farmers relations is a basically class conflict, main conflict of the in Korean society. So this land reform to liberate that kind of the class struggle. And then Korean War, and then urbanization propelled the surplus labor force in rural area to migrate to big city. So it means that in terms of quantity, the human resources was created. And then, but in terms of quality of manpower, from the 1950s, Korea has been, a lot of investment was made in education. For example, so Korea's shipbuilding industry actually has been started in late 1960s. However, the curriculum of the shipbuilding in university already has started in the 1950s. So before we are starting Korean shipbuilding industry, there is there are some export on the shipbuilding due to the education of university. So this is how to mobilize Korean human resources. Early stage 1960s, during this period, roughly 20,000 Koreans were dispatched at that time to West Germany. So during the 15 years around, they worked very hard. So they came back to the Korea with the savings and knowledge. So their savings was used for education for their children. This is our first experience, our Korean sending Korean workers to abroad. Second, this is the celebration of 50 years of dispatch nurses Germany. I attended this ceremony. And then Middle East, not only Bangladesh or Nepal, Korea also sent the construction workers of 2.5 million from this period. So Korean companies gained knowledge about oil exploration and construction technology, while workers are on the money which they used for future investment. So, but it's Korea, not only the people, workers, but also many Korean companies, the participates in the construction project. So they gained a lot of technology. This is the big assets for constructions to have a skill from this kind of work. How to mobilize capital. So as I said, also sending Korean army to the Vietnam War. This is during this war. So many Koreans went to the participation this one, and then in the mobilization with Japan, the compensation money came in Korea. So this is just starting the capital for economic development. However, during our economic development, always capital has been short. So government borrowed money from the overseas government and bank, and then distribute them to the companies. Companies made and good and export them and then repay them. However, but during this process, Korea underwent twice the crisis of foreign debts. Well, firstly, do you remember this is a second oil crisis, and then Korean economic crisis. So this is how to mobilize the capital. So human resources and capital is the main region for economic development. And then So 1970s, President Park is concentrated in this heavy and chemical industries. So can you imagine this iron and steel? This Pohang, POSCO, electronics, Gumi, Samsung and LG, and then petrochemical. There are big, the Yeocheon is our southern city name of shipbuilding machinery, not forest metal. This kind of heavy industry and the chemical industry started in 1970s. However, remember the second oil crisis, 1971 and 1979, 1981, Korea, they faced economic problem. Wow, this kind of problem. Because, as I said earlier, in the financial sector, going to too much intervention. Do you understand? And then over investment in heavy and the chemical industry, and then high inflation, and then large scale deficit. This is a problem. So we changed the economic policy. Firstly, lesson of HCI, too much the over reliance, and then pursuing the economic decentralization policy. And then secondly, in trade sector, we almost all the market. So for liberalization of trade, thirdly, as I said earlier, the starting over investment, government ensures this is first overseas investment. So, but in Korea, we are failing to controlling the activity of trade unions. Still, this trading unions problem still continuing. It means that chronic problem for us. So this is a very serious problem. So how to change our economic policy here? Korea got too much intervention in economy. So Korea government is now very emphasizing to strengthening transparency and accountability, and then tackling eradication of the corruption. These are the main reason. So nowadays, Anti-Bribery and Graft Act is very strong. Even government officials is very be careful about this law. So already I explained this one. This is how we are keep the serious attitude about the enhancing governance. So innovation, I'm roughly straight. So how can you imagine 2022? This amount of money was the industry R&D. This means that total R&D spending exceeded 4% of GDP. So this is why so new industries came in. For example, smartphone. Smartphone started 2008, 2009. This is one reason. And then semiconductor also started late 1990s by Samsung Electronics. And then, so also the Jebol means that Korean conglomerates of companies, they are emphasizing creative destruction. So just the previous, the economy is focused on heavy industry. Now they are high-end knowledge-based industry. This is a structure of how Korea is making constant innovation. So continue, I explain Korean the economy. 1997, 1998. Can you imagine Korea? Big problem for Korea. So this is why the main region is here. And then Korea, finally, the IMF rescue package, $53 billion we are borrowed to respond to the shortage of dollar. At the time, Korean Central Bank, no foreign exchange reserve. So we have to borrow the IMF and other total amount to $53 billion. This is the economic crisis. After crisis, what happened? So results. Banking sector was structured, and then many companies merged and consolidated. Thirdly, financial market fully open. Fourthly, in company, previous times lifetime employment is the main policy, however, since economic crisis disappeared, and then labor market very flexible. The flexible labor market means that there were much the power for company to lay off the market, lay off the workers if they feel that. So this is the big problem. However, this kind of measures will great increase in export. So 1.5 years later, we paid all the money. 1.5 years later. However, in our society and economy, big change. Very big change. And then most serious problem is that widen disparity in wealth among the people. This is our result, economic crisis. Recovery was made, however, due to this kind of the problem, big price and pay. And then one of the financial crisis is that too much intervention of governments. So how to respond? We are separate our for function. Central bank now is only the inflation control and interest policy. Monetary policy only conducted by central bank, and the others. This is not central. Financial Supervisory Commission was created to have a conduct oversight and finance sector. The so-called financial supervision work was now being conducted by the Financial Supervisory Commission. Also, restructuring company also conducted by this organization. Why I'm saying that this is one of the result of the financial crisis. So this kind of the separation is to how to prevent over intervention of government in the economy. This is one of the reason to separation. So this is our summary of how to the economic crisis has been made. So this economic crisis, so innovation and high tech is the main region, and then here summary. Previously, the focuses of growth were capital and labor this time. However, since this innovation is based on knowledge, creativity, and exploration. This is a so-called Cheonggyecheon in downtown Seoul, 1950s in these pictures. Now, 50 years later, this is the new way, same place. So, can you imagine how to different way to economic development was made? Problem is that Korea also, there are two problems. Firstly, declining of potential growth rate. Can you imagine here? From the until, so economic growth is very high, but from the here, now is a 2% to 3%, now less than, actually now is less than 2%. This economic growth was being made in Korea. So, declining economic growth rate is one of the big problems. Secondly, is that what Korea is aging shock. This is graph is the population share of 65 years old. So roughly here, Japan is first, and then Korea is catching up. And then this is the OECD average. So can you imagine 2030, China overpassed USA. So China is also entering the aging problem in this. And then India still enjoying demographic dividends. So this is how to see it. Restricting importable used car will facilitate domestic production in the new car. And then this policy will be also reducing greenhouse gas emission. So this is the concern. So overall, Bangladesh is indicated the average tariff of 27% of the tariff. Very high. It's not even Nepal is less than here. Also, very interestingly, Nepal is a landlocked country. However, the price of goods much cheaper than here. It means that Bangladesh needed to improve the taxation policy because this is also one of the reasons of the government revenue. That's why the NBR, they try to maintain high tariff of the, why they needed to get a source of the government's revenue. So this is a very uncomfortable. So high tariff on raw materials and intermediate goods should be reduced. In compared to Vietnam or Indonesia, this 57 is unthinkable. Bangladesh, well, simple. The Bangladesh total trade is maybe $100 billion. However, Vietnam's $600 billion. $600 billion. This is a big challenge here. Korea also become the partner because we have already achieved in R&D sector. So my problem is that Korean companies do not delay the project intentionally or inflate the cost of the project deliberately and focus on timely completion. So a few days ago, Prime Minister emphasizing this one. So cost is very important. For example, Lumpur, the power plants, same size of the nuclear power plant has been completed in India is of less than 40% of price. And then, so also the Bangladesh introduced the public-private partnership authority in 2018, but still there is no ongoing project. So I hope that in Korea and Bangladesh, the two projects now is under discussion. So we will hope that these two projects will go smoothly. This is our hope. And then the EDF means that Korea, the soft loan policy is the interest rate only 0.1, 0.5%. And then maturity is 30 years. This kind of funding size of the EDF has been increased to $3 billion until 2027. So this is a collaboration infrastructure. Lastly, many modeling the technology to found what is going on and then try to find future cooperation. Lastly, bilateral cooperation new area, food and leather, ICT, pharmaceutical, shipbuilding and breaking industry, blue economy, and then deep sea fishing, agriculture machinery, greenhouse and carbon trading scheme. This is we can cooperate. Lastly, I would like to touch one issue. So when I was a former ambassador to Nepal. So here and the Nepal has common thing, the brick making factory producing a lot of air pollution. So a few days ago, I read a news article. The Bangladesh government originally they are trying to control the number of making factory in 2025, but due to the law, the time is delayed. So it means that Bangladesh, the Dhaka air pollution will continue. So we need to tackling the brick making factory. So Korean companies has a technology in this area, but new technology means that almost zero air pollution technology to make bricks. So next week, some company will come to Bangladesh to have introduce their new technology. Thank you for listening, and thank you.
Korean fashion is taking the world by storm. We look forward to getting our profiles from basically Korean designers now. We don't look towards the West. The Western buyers actually go and shop in Korea and Japan, more from Korea now. So, there's a huge possibility for us to have some kind of a fashion collaboration as well. If you can send your designers out here and if we can, optimize, and I think that's because, ultimately it's value addition. Excellency, you source approximately $12 billion of garments from the world. And 4 billion is from Vietnam. Sorry, 4 billion is from China, 3 billion is from Vietnam. We are actually in the 5th position. We literally don't actually export much to you. Very interestingly, there are a couple of categories where you import quite a bit. For instance, synthetic trousers, and Korea imports from the world around $238 million worth of just synthetic trousers. And from Bangladesh, it's really only 4 million. So there's a huge chunk. Bangladesh should not be known as just the producer of basic garments. So there's a huge scope of value addition that we can do there. Also, tracksuits, the man-made fiber-based tracksuits. Excellency, you do import around 258 million from the whole world. And from Bangladesh, it's 2.2 million. These are all 21-22 statistics. The good part, however, is that on a year-on-year growth, we grow almost 22.44%, 22-23, which is good, which is great, but we can do better. With COVID, we dipped to almost only 9% growth, but right now it's 22.44%. So that is a lot of hope for us. I also represent academia. I work with an international university in Bangladesh. So we would also encourage any kind of collaboration between Korea and us. We are very deeply connected to IWA University. So that's one. We could need all the help in education. So I think that's another area. And just think about it. Korean cinemas are so popular in Bangladesh. I literally have my youngest daughter. If I go to her profile in Netflix, it's all about Korean drama. It's almost at a point where we're learning Korean. So with all that potential and all that possibilities, Excellency, we certainly hope that we will, of course, try and address our challenges and our limitations that we have and the hiccups that we, of course, cause you, with due apologies. But if you have faith, we can move even faster. Thank you.
In the last 30 years, I've visited Korea at least 15 times, perhaps more. I've also had the benefit of, when I was ambassador in China from 87 to 91, to be concurrently accredited to North Korea. So I've seen the very important contrast between the two Koreas and the enormous success achieved by South Korea. And I think His Excellency the Ambassador made a very important point in pinpointing the key to the transformation that took place in Korea when they moved from authoritarian form of government to a democratic form of government. And the fact that as many as 4 presidents of Korea ended up in jail, I think that is a record few countries can match, or perhaps hope to match. I think flowing from that, I thought what was also extremely important was his focus on the need to tackle corruption. And that has been a very major focus of successive governments in Korea. And that certainly is an important lesson which we in Bangladesh need to learn. I hope there will be an opportunity for all of you at some point to visit the KEPZ. When the KEPZ was the 2,000 roughly 500 acres were both bought and acquired at double the market rate. It was essentially swampy land. Today, the KEPZ has been totally transformed. There was a reference by Ms. Rubana Haq to backward linkage. I might mention that today there are, the KEPZ has 6 very large polyester and synthetic production plants, which are in fact meeting a substantial part of the demand of the domestic market. And it is expected that over the next 5 years, 60 more such plants will be established in the KPZ. And therefore, the expectation is that a substantial part of domestic demand, insofar as backward linkage fabrics are concerned, will be met by the Young One Corporation.
I have a structure of the presentation where a few of the issues have already been touched upon, but first I'll be talking about the strategic importance of Korean development, and then strategic relationship between Bangladesh and Korea, economic relation in the areas of trade, investment, climate change, connectivity, and people-to-people connection that we have between Korea and Bangladesh. So often we, there's a phrase that has been very popularized in recent times is the Easternization of the world, a book title written by Rahman. But often we forget that Easternization of the world has not happened today. We are paying too much attention to China's rise, but it has been in the making since 1990s. And the Asian miracle, the 4 countries that developed, that actually started this Asian Easternization of the world, and that Western countries started to look at Asian miracle developed countries who have been able to provide a different pathway to development. Korea is one of those countries, and as I mentioned before, flying this model, that it's a model where a country leads with this particular development model, and other countries follow with their own competitiveness, the kind of product that they can offer, and their indigenous capacity. And Korea has been one of the significant countries in this flying this model of development, which is in the talk in the strategic area for quite some time. In the case of Bangladesh-Korea relations, when I emphasize on the strategic aspect, we often forget that the Indo-Pacific strategy that was unveiled by Korea in late 2022 has tremendous similarity with that of Bangladesh. So what is the area that resonates with Bangladesh's policy? Inclusivity, a very rare element in Indo-Pacific strategy, that Korea identifies that inclusiveness is the key to work in the Indo-Pacific area, and it particularly emphasizes that diverse political systems can move forward together, can work together. It is interested to work with all the parties in the Indo-Pacific region and beyond, who promotes universal values and who follows rule-based international order. So far, there has been signing of a $90 million loan agreement to support Bangladesh on climate resilient inclusive development program. So this is an area that Bangladesh largely values, and Bangladesh needs different partner countries to come forward. In the areas of, we can see Rohingya issues. So Korea provides humanitarian support for the Rohingyas, and Korea provided critical support to the UN resolution on Rohingya that was taken in 2017-18 onward. So this is another area where we need a number of countries to stand beside Bangladesh and to provide a durable and sustainable repatriation of Rohingyas. And until that is done, Bangladesh for the first time has called for increased donation and aid from different countries, and Korea can prove to be an important country in that area. So in the area of people-to-people connection, already Masood has mentioned about Korean Bhai. So this is something interesting. He came to Bangladesh in 2005, and in 2020, when during the COVID restrictions, he had a hankering for having fuchka. So he posted in his YouTube video that I cannot live any long without having fuchka, and he went to local shop, and along with the support of the security guard and the chauffeurs of his uncle's house, he made fuchka and he ate fuchka. That became very popular during the COVID period and source of entertainment. Last year, he started participating in Bangladeshi drama as well. So he is emerging as a very important Bangladeshi figure here. Now he would be about 30 to 31 years of age. Just like in Bangalore, India, there is a Boba Bhai who is promoting Boba tea and associated culture. So now we have a Korean Bhai. So in the areas of people-to-people connection, we can also see how Korea is sort of providing us under Global Korea Scholarship Program for graduate degrees every year a significant number of scholarships. Given the number of population, like we are more than 3 times bigger than Korea, we would request His Excellency so that he can take the message to Seoul to increase the number of scholarships. There is a robust Bangladesh Student Association in Korea, BSAK, which undertakes regular activities, but more importantly, in a very recent years, there has been a Bangladesh Community School, Korea, established in Seoul, which teaches in Korean and in Bengali in the heart of Korea.
I will not bother going over the economic aspects or the geopolitical aspects which have already been covered, because that would be a wastage of your time. And most of it you already have. But as always, my projection would be about low-hanging fruits, which you can achieve in the future. And let me start off with the flying geese model. And with due respect to Dr. Iftikhar Chaudhry, yes, the flying geese model is a tried and tested model which has been used in East Asia. But the problem with us is we don't have geese, we have a goose. That's RMG. And the goose has been sick for a long time. It needs to go to the vet. So the goose never takes off. So the flying goose model will not be effective because, as the ambassador has pointed out, and it was airy, and let me say what many of you are thinking. Let me say it out publicly. We do share uncanny similarities with South Korea. Yes, war-torn country. We also had a bloody war of independence. Turbulent political history. And of course, if you look at, again, the political developments in the 80s and the economic challenge in the 90s, unerringly they are similar to the kind of crisis that many developing countries like Bangladesh are going. But where South Korea has done, Bangladesh could emulate, is effective investment in human capital development. They didn't have natural resources like us, but in terms of education, in terms of developing a competent primary and secondary education center, and then in investing in R&D, Bangladesh needs to take a leap out of the South Korean playbook. We have, yes, for the time being invested in quantity, but now it's the time to go for qualitative improvement. And this is where South Korea comes in. And I believe Dr. Rubana Haq has also pointed out, and let me bring this in terms of academia, where can South Korea help? Because recently there has been a change in the laws of Bangladesh which allows private universities, foreign private universities, to set up branches or franchises over here. And the one area where we have a lot of weakness is basic science and technology, engineering. Yes, we have Buet, we have Asanullah, but again, many of our best graduates do well when they go abroad. But again, we want to prevent that brain drain. We want to prevent the depletion of foreign exchange, right? And again, we are just talking about the traditional engineering. But what about, again, material engineering? What about nanotechnology? What about robotics? What about AI? These are the areas where South Korea and Japan are leading in around the world. So if you set up a university over here, again, this will do several things. One, along with Japan and South Korea somehow they tend to come together. But again, South Korea is also, according to Joseph Nye, one of the leaders in terms of soft power. This educational, if you invest in education in Bangladesh, you invest in hundreds, if not thousands of brand ambassadors for South Korea. Once upon a time, North American education was looked down upon until the United States of America and later on Canada started to give scholarships. And now the American model is being copied, duplicated all around the world. And in case of this technology transfer that can come from investment of South Korean universities over here, that will also help your firms, because then our productivity of labor will go up. As we've seen already in case of a labor force survey, there's been a 3% overall decline in our productivity of labor in manufacturing and services. So which means there's a huge gap. We'll never manage to attract foreign direct investment. That's number one. Number two, another way of a collaboration is to go for incubation centers. Invest in incubation centers with public or private universities, preferably the one that I teach in or the one that I will be looking for in the near future. So again, and this would also have academia industry linkage. And also then you will have a future pool of well-trained workers, just like what you did in South India, especially in Tamil Nadu, where you have big automotive manufacturing plants. Number 1 point gone. This is tangible. Number two, my wife would really like this. We talk about long big things, shipbuilding, electronics, so on and so forth. We never think about small things, cosmetics. And again, before you scoff at the cosmetics industry, let me give you the value. It's Taka 110 billion or $1.23 billion as of now, the local Bangladeshi cosmetic market, including all imports. Yes, not only female but also male invest in looking good. And why shouldn't they? And at my age, people like me should invest even more. Now, in this case, what happens over here, there is a compound average growth rate of 8 to 10% for the next decade. So if you have a $1.23 billion market, which is poised to grow to $2.5 billion in the next 5 years, and already there's a growing demand for Korean cosmetics. But you will say that, you have a foreign exchange crisis. They won't import South Korean cosmetics. Set up joint ventures over here. Transfer of technology, you have a local base. And the third one, if I go on quickly to this, there's also great demand for the organic skincare, which is a sub-genre of this. And again, people even in the rural areas, because the economic affluence is increasing, they're investing. And demand for Korean cosmetics are going up. Yes, Professor Lyons did mention that again, Indo-Pacific strategy of Korea. And it's no surprise that South Korea is also going to probably host the Global Summit for Democracy 2024. But we would want countries such as South Korea and Japan not only to be involved with us in our development process or development phase, but also act as interlocutors between us and the West, so that any perceived estrangement is resolved. And by associating with the South Koreans, we learn a very important thing, which we don't know, or which you don't know, the art of self-criticism. The candor with which you said that 4 of our presidents have been incarcerated, I don't think any Bangladeshi worth his salt is ever going to say this.
South Korea and Bangladesh share some things which are very, very common to each other. Perhaps we don't realize it. Way back, well, our emergence as an independent state and your emergence as an independent sovereign state came through the trial of fire of the clash between the big superpowers, the Cold War, and the fights that happened. You were occupied, we were also in a form of occupation, and we had to fight our way out of that. Having done that, in the 60s, your indices, whether in economic or social development, and the indices of what is now Bangladesh, but then was East Pakistan, were exactly the same. Perhaps we were a little ahead. So the big puzzle for sociologists, for political scientists, for people in government, how is it that you managed to forge forward without, as you say, having mineral resources at your disposal? and we are still struggling, whereas we do have resources. And I think the four pathways that you spelled out right in the beginning give us a clue of where we need to embark on. You mentioned 4 points: democracy, economy, good governance, and constant sustained innovation. It's the mix of these four, the sequencing of these four, which comes first, which comes parallel, which comes after. I think that is where you achieve the judicious mix, the critical mass needed to move South Korea away from the morass you were in to where you are today. And therefore, you are able to talk frankly. You are able to say that we have jailed 4 presidents, we have had democratic movements, we have accountability, etc. We are still struggling towards that. All these 4, I think, are underpinned by 2 elements. And that, for me, is the big takeaway I have here. A, universal literacy, and a high quality of education that you have arrived at. You said 100% are literate, not just literal. I believe many of them are well educated. Number 2 is the fact that I saw myself, and Ambassador Farooq Subhan mentioned that I was associated with him in the training program of mid-level civil servants from Bangladesh. I went with one of the groups, and it was for me an eye-opener. We took these civil servants who were dealing with specific ministries or organizations or departments of the government dealing with economic development and trade and commerce. We went to the different institutions in South Asia which deal with this in the promotion of trade and commerce and investment. You mentioned a number of elements which we still have to struggle to come to an acceptable level. And you took those civil servants there to say, this is how we have achieved this. How does the one-stop window work? I don't know whether that program has been sustained. There were some, I think, 15 or 20 civil servants, deputy secretaries, about to be senior, some had just become, some were about to become joint secretaries. Very key part of the backbone of the bureaucracy. That is where decisions are made or broken. That is where execution is done or it is not done. And I accompanied them as just a guide, a shepherd. And I would hear some remarks saying, why have we come here? We also have an ancient civilization. What do we have to learn? And somebody else saying, no, look around. We have a lot to learn. How have they come here? That is the sort of thing that is required very much. I hope you have continued that program in some form or other, because many of the problems you mentioned are basically stuck there in that machinery we call the bureaucracy. There is nothing like seeing something with your eyes at first hand and seeing how it operates, to come back and say, well, if they can do it, why can't I do it? At least it will change some manner in which they will approach the solution to the problem that is still facing them. I hope that program continues in some form or other. You also have, I hope, there was a talk at that time, and this is, I'm talking of 2009, of forming an alumni, which would continue, you would continue to be engaged. And I liked particularly Professor Pervez Abbasi's suggestion. Now that the government has opened up foreign universities to open up branches here, perhaps you could set up a branch of those very institutions that train your young people going into bureaucracy or business over here. Which comes first, democracy or economy? This has always been a challenge.
I was introduced to your Science and Technology Minister, Dr. Hipson Choi, in 1986. And I developed a very affectionate relationship with him. And he shared his stories with President Park Chung-hee. He was one of the 4 very important cabinet ministers. And when Park Chung-hee invited Dr. Hipson Choi, he was the president of KAIST. KAIST is the Korean Institute of Science and Technology. And he was the founder. So these 4, I don't remember the rest of the 3, but one was in charge of finance. He was the science and technology minister, and the other 2 went to Park Chung-hee and gave him conditions that you will protect 4 of us. We will undertake many reforms, and many powerful lobbyists will tell you things about us or against us, and you have to protect. And President Park Chung-hee said yes. And those 4 people changed Korea because they were allowed by Park Chung-hee. He was a military dictator, but he allowed them to work relentlessly, fearlessly, and that's how Korea was made. 2 things are very critical for any country. One is education, and the other is human resource. So many things have been mentioned, but nobody knows that Korea is the only country which dedicates highest percentage of GDP for R&D, research and development. No country comes near to Korea. And another thing, education. I have a question for this audience. Which professions are most highly paid in Korea? Ambassador, question to you. No, you don't know the answer. It's the primary school teachers. They are the most paid because the human resource, when you say if you want to invest, the children are our future and their education is the most important. Anyways, but I hope we will have our 5th Korea-Bangladesh dialogue before you decide to leave Bangladesh, okay, Sansi? And I think that so much has been discussed this morning, and it was so engaging. And I thank Dr. Iftikhar Wahid for chairing this, and I want to just thank all the discussants for their very excellent deliberation. Each and one of you have come and added so much that I think Iftikhar Wahid, we should go for the book project. We have plans for book project between Bangladesh and China, Bangladesh and India, Bangladesh and Japan, and Bangladesh and Korea we will start working on Korea. We have enough materials for during the last 4 sessions. And I thank you once again to UNB, my team, UNB as our media partner, for Korea as our knowledge partner. And I want to thank also Masood for working behind the scene to make sure that everything goes well. And all the discussants, participants, thank you very much. Let's give a big applause to